If you're a man over 60, there's something you need to hear. It might make you angry because the vegetables you've trusted your whole life, the ones you thought were healthy, could be the exact reason your erections are fading, your energy is slipping, and your confidence is quietly being drained. This isn't fear-mongering. It's what I've seen again and again in my students. Good men eating the wrong things and paying a heavy price where it hurts most. I'm Shi Heng, a Shaolin master and men's health expert with over 20 years of experience helping older men take back their vitality. Today, I'm here to tell you the truth that most experts don't talk about, not because they don't care, but because they don't know. What if the vegetables on your plate were slowly choking off your blood flow, weakening your testosterone, and accelerating sexual decline? The science is clear, and once you understand why, you'll never see these foods the same way again. Stay with me because, in just a moment, I'll reveal the 5 worst vegetables destroying erections after 60 and how to reverse the damage starting today. Before we dive into the vegetables you should never eat after 60, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss important health advice designed specifically for men your age. If this message resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. I'm here to serve you better every time. Alright, now let's get into the truth you came here for. The first vegetable on this list is one most men think is perfectly healthy, even beneficial. But for men over 60, it can quietly sabotage your testosterone and slowly weaken your ability to perform. Let's talk about soy-based vegetables. Let me tell you about a man named Richard, a retired firefighter from Ohio, 67 years old, proud grandfather of 5, and someone who came to see me after quietly suffering in silence for over a year. He wasn't sleeping well. His energy was dropping, and the most painful part, his erections were barely there. He said, "Shi Heng, I eat clean, I walk every day, and I've even cut out red meat. So why is this still happening to me?" When we looked at his diet more closely, one thing stood out. Almost every day he was eating soy-based foods, soy milk in the morning, edamame as a snack, tofu at dinner. He thought he was doing the right thing, but here's the part most men never hear. Soy isn't always your friend, especially after 60. Soy-based vegetables like edamame, tofu, and soy sprouts contain compounds called phytoestrogens. These plant-based chemicals mimic estrogen in the body, and when you're a man over 60, already battling declining testosterone, the last thing you need is more estrogen-like influence floating around. It shifts your hormonal balance in the wrong direction, and it does it quietly. No alarms, no pain, just a slow, steady weakening of your sexual function. What Richard didn't realize, and what most older men are never told, is that these subtle hormonal shifts matter far more after 60 than they did in your 30s or 40s. Your body isn't as resilient, your testosterone doesn't bounce back the same way, and the sensitive hormonal balance that governs your energy, your mood, and your erections can tip dangerously off course from something as simple as what you think is a healthy food choice. After just 3 weeks of removing soy-based vegetables from his diet and replacing them with testosterone-friendly options, Richard started to notice changes. His energy felt steadier, his morning erections came back, and one day, with tears in his eyes, he told me he and his wife had made love for the first time in months, without pills, without pressure, just the way it used to be. That's the power of the right food at the right time in your life. I share Richard's story because it's not unique. I've seen this same pattern in dozens of men. We've all been told to eat more plants, and that's good advice. But no one ever stops to ask which plants are right for your stage of life. That's the difference between aging with strength and slowly fading away. Now, soy isn't evil. If you're 25, active, and training in the gym, a little soy won't destroy your hormones. But if you're 60, 70, or older and already dealing with reduced testosterone and sluggish blood flow, Soy-based vegetables can be the final straw breaking down your performance. It's not about fear. It's about understanding your body and giving it what it needs, not what the food industry tells you to eat. So if you've been reaching for soy thinking it's the healthy choice, don't beat yourself up. You were trying your best, but now you know the truth, and you can do better starting today. Coming up next is a category of vegetables that seem innocent enough. In fact, they're probably sitting in your pantry right now. They're salty, convenient, and often labeled as heart healthy, but they wreak havoc on the very blood vessels you need to support strong erections. I'll show you exactly what they are and why they're quietly aging your manhood faster than you think. Stay with me. That brings me to another silent saboteur I see far too often. Vegetables that seem harmless because they're convenient, but are quietly damaging the very blood vessels that make erections possible. Let me share the story of James, 72, a retired Navy officer from South Carolina. He's the kind of man who never missed a day of work in 40 years, always kept himself in shape, and still splits firewood behind his house just to stay active. But when he came to my training center, he admitted something he never thought he'd have to say out loud. Shi Heng, I feel like my body still wants to perform, but it just doesn't respond. At first glance, his lifestyle looked clean. No smoking, light drinking. He still walked a couple of miles every morning. But when we reviewed his eating habits, something jumped out. Fast canned vegetables, pickled beets, jarred sauerkraut, even canned green beans. Not because he loved them, but because they were quick, easy, and had a long shelf life. He said, Shi Heng, it's just easier than cooking fresh stuff every night. Here's the problem. These preserved vegetables are loaded with sodium far beyond what your body needs, especially after 60. Excessive sodium doesn't just raise your blood pressure, it damages the endothelium. That's the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. When this lining gets inflamed or hardened, it restricts blood flow, and that includes the fine capillaries that lead to your penis. Let me be direct. Erections are a blood flow event. They don't happen without smooth, unrestricted circulation. When sodium makes your arteries stiff, your erection doesn't stand a chance, and you don't feel it happening. Not at first. There's no sudden pain or alarm bell. It's gradual. One day you wake up and realize you're not getting as firm, you're not lasting as long, or maybe the desire is still there, but your body just isn't cooperating. That was James's story, and he's not alone. Over the years, I've seen countless men like him, independent, disciplined, and unaware that their quick food choices were costing them dearly. After just 1 month of replacing canned and pickled vegetables with fresh, potassium-rich options like leafy greens, lightly steamed zucchini, or roasted bell peppers, James saw a measurable drop in his blood pressure. But more importantly, he told me he felt awake again in his lower body. His morning erections came back. He even said his confidence returned in ways he hadn't expected. It's not just about sex, it's about dignity, it's about feeling whole again. When a man feels cut off from his body's natural response, it chips away at something deeper. But the good news is, your body can change, you can repair, you can heal if you give it the right conditions. So I want you to take a look at your pantry. What's sitting on your shelves right now? Are those convenient canned veggies really worth the hidden price they're charging you? Because the truth is, some of the foods that seem the easiest can end up being the most costly, especially when they're robbing you of circulation, intimacy, and confidence. And speaking of seemingly harmless foods, the next one might shock you. It's a vegetable that almost every American household keeps stocked. It's baked, fried, mashed, or crisped, and often served at nearly every dinner table. But it hits your blood sugar so hard it mimics the vascular damage seen in diabetic men. And yes, it affects your erection in more ways than you might imagine. I'll tell you exactly what it is and how to choose a smarter substitute that fuels both your body and your performance. Keep watching. And while we're on the subject of everyday foods with hidden risks, there's one vegetable almost every man over 60 has eaten his entire life. but it's quietly damaging your erections more than you know. Let me tell you about Harold, 69 years old, former truck driver from Minnesota, salt of the earth kind of guy. When he came to my training center, he sat down, looked me in the eye and said, "Shi Heng, I'm not expecting miracles, I just want to feel like a man again." He wasn't asking for pills, he wasn't chasing youth, he just wanted to feel present with his wife, who he loved deeply after 40 years of marriage. What struck me was how genuinely he wanted to do it the right way, through better habits, better food, and better understanding of his body. When we sat down and reviewed his meals, one thing stood out loud and clear: white potatoes nearly every day, hash browns with breakfast, mashed potatoes with dinner, fries when he was on the road. It was part of his routine, something he never questioned, and who would? Potatoes are cheap, filling, and they've always been part of the American table. But here's what most men don't know, and what Harold had never been told. White potatoes, especially when fried or processed, are one of the most high glycemic foods you can eat. That means they spike your blood sugar fast and hard. When that happens, your insulin rises, your blood vessels take a hit, and inflammation starts working its way through your system, slowly, quietly, steadily damaging the very arteries and nerves that make sexual function possible. In younger men, the body can sometimes bounce back from that kind of metabolic stress. But after 60, those same spikes hit harder and recover slower. Over time, they lead to stiffer arteries, reduced nitric oxide, and a slow loss of sensitivity and responsiveness in the penis. That's why so many men begin to feel disconnected from their desire, not because they've lost interest, but because their body is no longer following through. When Harold heard this, he was stunned. "Nobody ever told me a potato could mess with my manhood," he said, half joking. But there was a weight behind his words. He felt misled, like he had done everything right and still ended up in the dark. So we made a change. We swapped white potatoes for sweet potatoes, which are lower on the glycemic index, full of antioxidants, and far better for vascular health. Instead of fries, he tried roasted sweet potato wedges with olive oil. Instead of mashed potatoes loaded with butter and cream, he mashed sweet potatoes with garlic and a little Greek yogurt. The results didn't happen overnight, but they came. First, his energy felt steadier throughout the day. Then he noticed his mood lifted, but the breakthrough came one morning when he told me he had woken up with a strong, natural erection, something he hadn't felt in over a year. He smiled, looked down, and said, "I thought he retired. Turns out he just needed better fuel." That's what this is really about. Giving your body the right kind of fuel, the kind that protects your blood vessels, supports your hormones, and keeps you feeling alive, not just existing. Now, I know how hard it is to question the foods you've relied on your entire life. Change takes courage, but it's a lot easier than waking up 5 years from now feeling even more disconnected, even more frustrated, and wondering if it's too late. But it's not too late, not if you start now. Because what you eat today shapes how your body responds tomorrow. And if you think potatoes were a surprise, wait until you hear about the next vegetable. It's often praised for its versatility and rich flavor. You've seen it fried, stewed, grilled, and smothered in sauces. But it absorbs oil like a sponge, and that one detail can quietly ignite inflammation in your system and leave your manhood dull and unresponsive. Let's talk about that next. And now let's turn to a vegetable that seems innocent, even elegant, but when it's cooked the wrong way, it becomes one of the most deceptive enemies of male sexual health. It was a Friday afternoon when I met Leonard, a 74-year-old retired music teacher from New Jersey, soft-spoken, articulate, and deeply devoted to his wife, whom he'd been married to for nearly 50 years. He came in for what he called a quality of life check. That was his way of gently saying, "Shi Heng, things aren't working the way they used to, and I'd like to do something about it before it's too late." What I appreciated most about Leonard was his honesty. He wasn't ashamed, he just wanted answers. So we talked, not just about symptoms, but about life, his habits, his meals, his routines. It didn't take long before I noticed something interesting in his diet. Eggplant. He loved it. Grilled, sautéed, fried, layered into casseroles, smothered in sauce. Eggplant was a regular star in his kitchen. Now, here's the part most men don't know. Eggplant by itself isn't the villain. It's actually low in calories and contains fiber and antioxidants. But the problem lies in how it's typically cooked. Eggplant is like a sponge. It absorbs oil rapidly, and not the good kind. Most times it's fried in vegetable oil or soaked in canola, which are both high in omega-6 fatty acids. Too much omega-6 throws your body into a chronic inflammatory state. Inflammation is one of the most damaging forces when it comes to erections. It blocks the production of nitric oxide, the chemical signal your body needs to open blood vessels and allow blood to flow into the penis. Without that signal, you may feel desire, but the response won't follow. It's frustrating, confusing, and deeply discouraging for many men. For Leonard, this was a revelation. He had never once considered that his favorite vegetable dish, his signature eggplant parmesan, could be working against him in such a personal way. He looked at me and said, "Shi Heng Yi, I thought I was eating Mediterranean and healthy. Turns out I was deep frying my sex drive." We didn't take eggplant away from him completely. Instead, we made a few simple swaps. I suggested he roast or grill it with a light touch of olive oil instead of frying, used fresh tomatoes, herbs, and garlic for flavor instead of heavy sauces. Not only did the inflammation markers in his blood begin to drop, but within weeks, he reported stronger morning erections and a deeper sense of energy. His words, not mine. I feel like I'm waking up again, like there's blood moving where it wasn't before. That's the truth so many men never hear. It's not always what you eat, but how you prepare it. Some foods become dangerous, not because of what they are, but because of how they're cooked, the oils we use, the methods we follow out of habit, and the hidden impact those habits have on circulation, hormone levels, and sexual responsiveness. Leonard's story is a powerful reminder that you don't have to give up the foods you love. You just have to learn how to work with your body instead of against it. At this stage in life, the margin for error is narrower, but the opportunity for improvement is still wide open. Now, if you think eggplant was a surprise, wait until you hear about what's coming next. It's a vegetable that's everywhere, in snacks, in stews, on the cob at summer barbecues. It seems harmless enough, even festive. But beneath the surface, it disrupts blood sugar, messes with your hormones, and fuels the very belly fat that converts testosterone into estrogen. If you're serious about protecting your manhood, you need to hear what I'm about to share. Let's go there next. Now, let's talk about a vegetable that's so common, so deeply woven into American life, that most men never stop to question it. But if you're over 60, it may be one of the biggest threats to your sexual health. I want to tell you about Thomas, 66 years old, retired elementary school principal from Iowa, a strong, dependable man, a mentor to many. But when he walked into my training center, he wasn't feeling strong. He felt tired, sluggish, and frustrated by the steady decline in his performance and drive. He told me, "I still feel the desire, Shi Heng Yi, but my body isn't catching up. It's like the engine's there, but the fuel line's clogged." We looked through his daily diet. He wasn't eating junk food, wasn't overeating, and he'd even cut back on alcohol, but there was one recurring ingredient: corn. Corn on the cob with dinner, corn tortillas at lunch, corn chips in the evening. He didn't even think of it as a problem. It was just food. Familiar, affordable, and always available. Here's the problem. Corn, especially in the processed form we find it today, is no longer the simple vegetable it used to be. Much of it is genetically modified. It's starchy, low in nutrients, and, most dangerously, it hits your blood sugar almost as hard as white bread. That spike in blood sugar leads to insulin resistance, which leads to inflammation, which damages the blood vessels, the exact vessels that support erections. But that's not all. Excess corn consumption, particularly in the form of corn-based snacks and syrups, contributes to belly fat. Here's the kicker most men never hear. Belly fat isn't just excess weight. It's biologically active. It converts testosterone into estrogen. Let me repeat that. The more belly fat you carry, the more of your testosterone is quietly being transformed into estrogen, reducing your strength, your drive, your confidence, and, yes, your erections. When I explained this to Thomas, he leaned back and sighed. No one ever told me corn could mess with my hormones. I thought it was just a side dish. That moment stuck with me, because it's not just Thomas. It's millions of men unknowingly undermining their health with the most basic foods. So we took action. We cut the corn, the chips, the syrup, the tortillas. We replaced them with fiber-rich, blood sugar stabilizing foods like lentils, quinoa, and leafy greens. At first, it wasn't easy. Corn had been part of his meals for as long as he could remember, but within a few weeks, his energy started to return. His mental clarity sharpened, and when I asked how things were going in the bedroom, he smiled and said, "Let's just say I'm not as worried as I used to be. It's not about perfection, it's about awareness. Once you know what certain foods are doing to your body, you have the power to change your outcome. No, cutting corn isn't going to solve everything overnight. But if you're stacking the odds against yourself at every meal, the damage adds up, and so does the frustration. You deserve better than silent sabotage. You deserve to feel like your body is working with you, not against you. And often, that begins by simply knowing what to avoid. But now that we've covered the 5 worst vegetables, you might be wondering, what should you be eating? What habits actually support stronger erections, better circulation, and real hormonal balance after 60? Well, that's where we're heading next. Because avoiding the bad stuff is only half the story. It's what you do starting today that sets you up for strength tomorrow. In just a moment, I'll walk you through exactly what to do. The foods, the shifts, the strategies to reclaim your vitality and rebuild the part of your health that matters most. Keep listening. Now that we've exposed the 5 vegetables that may be quietly working against you, let's shift the focus to what you can actually do starting today to rebuild your strength, your confidence, and your ability to perform like the man you still are. There's something powerful that happens when a man realizes he still has control. I see it all the time. The moment when he stops feeling like a victim of aging and starts acting like the owner of his health again. Because the truth is, your body may be older, but it still listens. It still responds. It still wants to work. It's just waiting for you to give it the right conditions. One of my favorite students, Walter, 71 years old, came to me after seeing one of my talks online. He was skeptical but open. He'd already tried pills, supplements, and even a few strange miracle cures he found on late-night TV. None of it worked. But something about the idea of food, something as simple and foundational as what you eat, gave him a new kind of hope. So we kept it simple. No drastic diets, no overwhelming rules, just clear, consistent steps. We eliminated the worst offenders, the 5 vegetables we've talked about, and then we rebuilt his meals around the things that actually support a man's body after 60. We focused on leafy greens like spinach and arugula, rich in nitrates that help relax blood vessels and support healthy blood flow. We added in healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, and omega-3 rich fish to reduce inflammation and support hormone production. We brought in zinc-heavy foods like pumpkin seeds and lean red meat in moderation to naturally encourage testosterone. Just as important, we kept sugar and processed carbs in check because those things eat away at your circulation faster than most men realize. But food wasn't the only thing we worked on. We made space for movement, nothing extreme, just walking every day, light stretching, keeping the blood moving. We focused on hydration, quality sleep, and reconnecting with his sense of purpose. You'd be surprised how often a man's vitality is tied not just to his biology, but to how he feels about his place in the world. 3 months later, Walter walked into my training center a different man. He was smiling more. His posture had changed. He wasn't just managing anymore. He was participating in his own life. When I asked him how things were going in the bedroom, he chuckled and said, "Let's just say my wife is sending you a thank you card." That's the possibility I want you to hold on to, not because it's some fantasy, but because it's entirely real. You are not past the point of progress. You are not too old to care, and you are absolutely not powerless. The first step: remove what's working against you. Cut the foods that dull your blood flow, shrink your testosterone, and confuse your system. The second step: feed your body what it actually needs. Real nutrients, real movement, real rest. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be intentional. Every day you delay is a day your body continues down the wrong path. But every small change you make today, this week, this month, adds up. It's not just about better erections. It's about more energy, better mood, deeper connection with your partner, and feeling more at home in your own body again. So don't wait. You've made it this far, and that tells me you're serious, you care, and you're ready to do something about it. Coming up next, I want to share a personal message with you, something I've learned after more than 30 years in men's health. Because while food is powerful, there's something even more important when it comes to lasting strength and confidence. I'd like to tell you what that is. Stay with me. Watching Shi Heng's talk on the 5 vegetables that could harm men's health after 60 was eye-opening. As someone who's always believed in the power of food to nourish, I was struck by how certain choices, even ones we think are healthy, can silently undermine our vitality. The stories of Richard, James, Harold, Leonard, Thomas, and Walter resonated deeply, each reflecting a universal struggle, the desire to feel strong, connected, and alive, no matter our age. Their experiences, paired with Shi Heng's insights, taught me that aging doesn't mean surrendering vitality. It means making smarter, more intentional choices. Here are the lessons I've drawn and how I plan to apply them to my life. First, I realized the importance of questioning long-held beliefs about food. Like Richard, who thought soy was a healthy staple, I've often followed dietary advice without digging deeper. The revelation that soy's phytoestrogens can disrupt hormonal balance after 60 was a wake-up call. It's not about fear, but about awareness. I've started auditing my pantry, checking for soy-based products like tofu or edamame that I consume regularly. My plan is to replace them with testosterone-friendly options like leafy greens or lean meats, as Shi Heng suggested. This shift feels empowering. It's a small change, but it's a step toward aligning my diet with my body's needs at this stage of life. James's story about canned vegetables hit close to home. I've relied on pickled or canned foods for convenience, especially on busy days. Learning that their high sodium content damages blood vessels and restricts circulation was a jolt. I now see how these easy choices could cost me my energy and confidence. I'm committing to fresh vegetables like zucchini or bell peppers, which are rich in potassium and support blood flow. It's a reminder that convenience often comes at a hidden price, and I'd rather invest a little time in cooking to protect my health long term. Harold's experience with white potatoes made me rethink staples I've never questioned. I love fries and mashed potatoes, but their high glycemic impact on blood sugar and arteries was a shock. Shi Heng's suggestion to swap them for sweet potatoes feels doable. I've already tried roasting sweet potato wedges with olive oil, and they're just as satisfying. This lesson extends beyond food. It's about breaking habits that feel comfortable but harm us. I'm now more mindful of how my daily choices, food, exercise, even rest, either build or erode my vitality. Leonard's love for eggplant, ruined by frying, taught me that preparation matters as much as the food itself. I've been guilty of using cheap oils like canola without considering their inflammatory effects. Shi Heng's advice to grill or roast with olive oil is a game changer. I'm experimenting with lighter cooking methods, not just for eggplant, but for all vegetables. This lesson applies to life broadly. How we approach something, whether it's cooking, work, or relationships, can transform its impact. Intention and care make all the difference. Finally, Thomas's struggle with corn showed me how even normal foods can sabotage health. The link between corn, belly fat, and testosterone loss was surprising. I've cut back on corn-based snacks and replaced them with fiber-rich options like quinoa. More importantly, his story reminded me that small, consistent changes compound. I'm inspired to stay patient and trust that these adjustments will restore energy and confidence over time. Shi Heng's overarching message is that our bodies still listen. At any age, we can reclaim control by making informed choices. I'm applying this by auditing my diet, prioritizing movement, and valuing rest. It's not about perfection, but direction. Every meal, every step, every moment of mindfulness is a chance to rebuild vitality. This journey feels personal, not just for men over 60, but for anyone who wants to live fully. My body isn't my enemy, it's waiting for me to give it the right fuel. Thank you for joining me in reflecting on this powerful message. If Shi Heng's advice sparked hope or clarity for you, please give this video a like. It helps reach more people who need this wisdom. Share it with a friend, brother, or father who could benefit from these insights. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more no-nonsense advice on health and aging well. Drop a comment below. Type 1 if this resonated, or 0 if it didn't. Your feedback helps me serve you better. Let's keep learning, growing, and showing up for ourselves together.